explain like, how that works to people who are maybe not as familiar with?
So it's banned now, so anybody under the age of 16 can't cut weight, but yeah, I cut weight for all my competitions.
So what is weight? Some people might not know what it is.
So beforehand, like, we had weigh-ins the day before, and on the morning you could choose which one you wanted back then. You usually try and choose the weight the day before so that you could try and cut water. You would dehydrate yourself, make sure you sweated it all out, and then it'll be a wee bit lighter, and then you rehydrate and you're heavier for the day of the competition. And I was doing that back when I was 6.
6? Fucking hell. Right, Finn, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, how's your bro?
Aye, doing well, mate. Thanks very much for doing this. I always like to start with a bit of sort of gratefulness for coming in and do this. Obviously, for the folk who don't know you, Finlay Marshall, wrestler, snake pit catch wrestling champion recently, BJJ purple belt up at Scottish Hit Squad. You're also one of the coaches up there, and I can confess, an absolute powerhouse on the mats. Also a paramedic, a dad. How's that for an introduction, Finn?
That's good, that sums me up, aye.
So I think it's because of your backstory, obviously competing for Scotland as well and Team GB, I think it probably makes sense to sort of go back to the start for you and tell us like your earliest memories. How did you get into wrestling, all that sort of stuff, if that's alright?
So I started wrestling because I was a bit of a hyperactive child. I was causing so much nuisance at the Tri Sports Centre in Cumbernauld that my parents had to put me in something. So when my sister was swimming, they basically they looked at the timetable. Wrestling was on, judo was on, basketball was on, all of these different ones, and they just shoved me into all of them. And wrestling was the one I really enjoyed the most. Got to travel and basically work my way up.
So how old were you when that started? Can you remember?
4.5.
So you've been wrestling since you've been 4.5?
4.5, aye.
And like, I don't know, Cumbernauld, some people might not know what sort of thing, so like, I was reading the other night, like there was a guy, was he an Olympic wrestler or something? Was it him that started the sort of sports club up there, or the wrestling? There was somebody.
Mick Rolls, so he started it, and then Stevie McKeown then took over, and basically there's like so many different name changes and all the rest of it. So it was Cumbernauld Wrestling, then it became Tri Sports like Wrestling Club and all the rest of it, and then we've had 1,000 different wee coaches and things. But when I first started, it was Stevie McKeown and Granit Tarabin. So he was the British national coach at the time, and he was originally part of the Russian national team, and he had 2 Olympic gold medalists and all the rest of it. So he was my main coach. He was the one I looked up to. And
oh wow, he sounds like he was heavy duty then.
So he then gets scalped to go and coach at Harvard University. So he's retired now, but that was where he finished up coaching.
Fucking hell.
NCAA for them.
So when you were 4.5 when you started, how long before, like, did you know you loved it straight away? Like what was the passion like for the get-go?
Maybe my parents might disagree, but no, I just loved it. I loved the thought of like taking somebody down, like dominating. It was like competing against, like, you go swimming, you do football. It's always like you don't get to see the results straight away. Whereas for wrestling, you've seen it straight away. If you could get that person down, you know you won. You know you've defeated them. You know that you've got that kind of something over them, and that's what I enjoyed. And like for me, I've got lots of cousins. I'm like a big family. My mum's was 10 kids, like, and I've got hundreds of cousins. So every Saturday we'd go to my grand's, and it was like essentially a Royal Rumble. And I was the youngest boy, so I was always enjoying fighting. So it was brilliant.
Were you batting fuck out when you were 4.5, were you?
I used to get stuck in. I never batted them. It took a wee while to learn the moves, and then I eventually did die. No, I call it to all my cousins. I'm definitely best.
What? How old were you when you started competing then? Like, obviously, I don't know, like, how long did you train for before you actually go?
So I was 6, I think, for my first competition. So it was different now than it was then. So then you had to do a local meet, then you did the districts, and then when you won the districts, you then went to nationals, like for Scottish championships, and then when you won Scottish, you then eventually could go to British. You weren't allowed to jump in between, which you can do now. So there was like a stage of levels that you could do. You had to medal and do well at these ones. So my first like competition, I got silver at it was just a wee Triced Open thing, and then I eventually worked my way up. I think I won my first Scottish, but actually I think it was 96, and then I won my British Championships in 97.
So you would have, how old, you been 9 or 10 then, something like that? I never really heard anybody wrestling. Like, when we were young, I would say obviously fit was the main kind of sport in Scotland, and your rugby, boxing, stuff like that. So how many folk are sort of competing back then when you were sort of...
So I think there was probably about 25 clubs in Scotland at the time, and there's probably about 6 now. There's not as much. It's like took a massive dip. It was a lot more popular. There was, like, for me when I was younger, there was Volgut had a team, Cumbernauld, Go Scythe had one, Springburn, like it was all within a local area. Because when I eventually got better, I used to train at each one, because my training nights were like Monday, Tuesday at the Trist, and then I'd like a Monday I would go, Tuesday, whatever day it was, I'll go to Springburn. Other days I'll go else different clubs, just so I could keep constantly training.
And is that your coaches that are sort of taking you there, or your mum and dad? Sort of, are they seen a talent at that point? And
no, it was my mum and dad. No, my basically I always say Stevie was the only one that took me on a Sunday to East Kilbride, but the other one that was my parents. My parents did a lot for me. They travelled everywhere with me, but like they went to St. Louis in America, they went to Russia with me. They had to take me everywhere because when you're under the age of 16 you needed adult supervision, and certain times they needed more adults than, like, for percentages of kind of ratios, the adults to kids. So my parents would volunteer and come.
There wasn't any bears in Scotland for you to wrestle with, no? So a few bears in Springburn, right enough, maybe. So when did you do your first international tournament, and what was it like? Did you have any nerves at any point, like when you went for obviously just competing at the club to starting to go to regional or Falkirk or whatever else?
So you see international, so my first competition out of Scotland was classed as an international.
Blackpool?
So no, it was Aspel, it's in Wigan.
Right.
It was called Aspel, and that's Aspel Wrestling Clubs, the ones that run Snake Pit.
All right.
So they run it with Roy Woods and ran it, and it was my first time going and competing. So we went down and we stayed in Bolton Wrestling's gym. I slept on the mats the night before in a sleeping bag. That's the way it was. And we travelled down and on mats in the back of a van as well, like no child, like no safety, no nothing. Just literally sat on it, played cards with my pals on the way down, and then slept on the mats.
It sounds like you were kidnapped rather than going for a wrestling thing, mate.
But I got bronze at that one. Met Mike Grundy for the first time. That's fought in the UFC. Threw me a bit like a ragdoll. Made me think, oh God, I really need to train harder. I could beat the ones in Scotland. I thought, no, I need to work harder. But the following year was my first actual international national. So I won the British, and I got invited with the Scottish team to go to France, and I won gold there.
Class. And so how old were you when you met Mike Grundy? Like you were saying, obviously there was a difference in level. Was he maybe older? Or?
Aye, so he's 2 years older than me. So but your kids, it mostly goes by kind of rough age brackets. So that was meant to be under 12s, and it was a weight class. I think I was like 25 kilos. It was like none.
And I forget what Mike's backstory is, because I think he's got his son into wrestling and MMA hunting. So was his dad sort of?
His dad was the coach. His dad's Dave Grundy, phenomenal man, absolutely phenomenal. Couldn't say anything nicer about him. He was a legend. He was always brilliant to me. I actually took me in at one point, and actually I got to stay a few months down in Wigan with Mike, so I could train for the Europeans. At that point, he did block paving. That was his wee business, so he did a few times for me and make extra money. He would take me out and things like that. It was good.
Oh, class. It does seem to be that kind of respect. Like there's a fraternity between wrestlers, kind of an outsider's impression. Is that how you felt since you've got involved with it?
I think, see, especially in British wrestling, it's not the best international wise, so we try and support each other to try and make sure that they do well. Especially see like the ones down in England, they would support a lot of Scottish wrestlers a lot. Sports Scotland never funded me much. They funded me, but not as much as Sports England funded me. Right? So Sports England funded me more than Sports Scotland. So Sports England funded me to be a training partner for one of the athletes. So they sent me away more than anybody else because they funded me as a training partner to send me to competitions. Why
do you think like that is just the politics or the sort of perception that wrestling's it's not a popular sport in Scotland, so they just don't invest? And how does that make you feel like when you look back on that's like a thing? And obviously, like you're saying, with the wrestling clubs diminishing now, like if I would have thought it would have went the other way. I would have thought wrestling would be more popular now than what it was back then, to be honest, because of the knowledge that people are picking up for the likes of UFC and all that, and wanting the ways to.
But they're wanting them to do wrestling for BJJ. They're wanting wrestling for MMA. They don't want to do is freestyle wrestling. It's not as popular as it is in the UK. Like it's there's issues with kids not liking wearing the singlets. They don't like the rule sets and things like that. So they're trying to adapt it. Especially like in America when they were doing the high school wrestling, they're making them wear shorts and t-shirts now instead. They can wear head guards to protect. It was like they're doing a lot more to make it a lot more popular.
Aye, that sounds alright to be fair.
But we're not doing it in the UK. So Kieran Malone, that's from Workbeds in Grip House, he's working a lot doing that for British wrestling, trying to adapt it. So he's done like a takedown only competitions and changing the rule sets to get people more involved in it.
Is it dangerous then, like freestyle wrestling when you're young? I've heard somebody was telling me recently about somebody who'd get injured like with an accident, unfortunately, with wrestling.
Aye, so they've changed the rule set for kids. So when I was younger, everything was allowed. Now you can't suplex, you can't throw the top of your head. There's like danger of hurting people's necks and things like that, and you can't take them over at certain angles. But it's the same as Jiu Jitsu. It's if the referees do their job, then it's a safe sport.
And did you ever get injured or injure anybody?
Several times, aye. So, oh God, I've did my wrists, my knees, ankles, fingers, and all the rest of it. I've done quite a bit, and then I've broke people's ribs, and I've done quite a bit.
And it sounds like obviously that you're talking about being up to the sort of age of 12 there. So what about the sort of between 12 and 16 or 12 and 18? What was the progression there into like your Scotland squads? And
yeah, so that's when I started progressing into like the British team, and we started going bigger and further abroad and things like that. So like when I was going to more European championships, and we were doing training camps in St. Louis in America and things, and going across to Russia, it was like most of my summers and any holiday period, I was never really home. I was always somewhere, just constantly training. As if I wasn't abroad, I was down in England training at the National Squad Centre, just doing my kit.
And was it just a 24/7 focus on wrestling for you? Like you weren't interested in any other sort of sports or gaming or nothing?
No, I'm away now, of course. No, so I played my football. I think I stopped that when I was about 13, 14 because I wanted to concentrate more on wrestling. It was the exact same for swimming. I've got swimming records because of the wrestling I was naturally athletic, so did the swimming, and I was like, no, this is too much on my wrestling, it's affecting my training. I did judo. I think I stopped that when I was 16 because they changed the rule sets. They banned a lot of kind of wrestling moves that you weren't allowed to do. So like they stopped double legs, they stopped, it was a drop skinai, which is a drop, like doing a shoulder throw, dropping to your knees. They kind of barred all that stuff, and it was all the moves I did. So
anything that's violent, you're into basically, Finn.
No, and I did a lot of different other sports, but I think about 15, 16 I stopped them all and just concentrated on wrestling.
And when you mentioned obviously the proper like internationals going abroad and you're competing against the Russians and all that, like what's that like? What is that feeling like as a teenager? Again, is there nerves? Are you excited? And
going there, you're excited, you love it, you're loving the experience, the culture and seeing everybody, but my nerves are terrible. So like if anybody tells you it comes and watches me, I go swaggy. I don't talk to nobody. I'm like so moody and just like my nerves are terrible. I've probably fought maybe at least 300 odd matches in that small space of time in my head, thinking if they do that, I'll do this, I'll do that, and I just keep running through, and it's so much nervous energy saps out of me. It's bad.
That surprises me because like, when I've sort of seen you in the gym and you're rolling, you seem so calm, like, as if you're not even, you're operating at like for 30-40% it seems sometimes, and like to me, I'm fucking blowing at my ass thinking I'm fighting for life or death, and it just seems to come obviously dead natural with you.
But that's training. Training is different. Training, there's no glory in it. There's no, like, if you muck up in training, that's where you're meant to muck up. You're not there to win every single match in training. You're there to learn. Like, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're not going to progress. If you're ever rolling with, like, Brian or Jimmy at black belts, they'll put themselves in bad positions. They'll do it on purpose so that they can work on them and look for escapes, look for little wee bits. They don't want to go there and smash you the whole time. That's not going to learn anything from it. I'm not going to learn anything if they just go in there and smash me. They're not going to gain anything from it. They need to put themselves in bad positions and work it out. So you see Brian all the time when he rolls with me, he'll get into wee wrestling scrambles and he knows, like, okay, what's Finn going to do? And he uses it to process for then he can help his later fighters. So you can see him, he's constantly always thinking what to do later on. And that's why I like when I roll him, because he's looking at these things, and that's like the way I adapt it myself. And
what about, like, just to go back to the sort of Russians again, because it seems like the sort of that region, the sort of Eastern European, when you're starting to get into Russia, they seem to be the sort of the real talent in the sort of wrestling world. Was that noticeable?
So like the first Eastern Bloc I went to was Latvia, and that opened my eyes of the big difference. So the competition was held in Riga, in their capital city, and it was at a school that was dedicated to like sports. So all the wrestlers were all from that school. Like the second I came off the plane, they did an interview with me. Like I was like, what's this about? Like I'm used to like wrestling's hardly anything. Nobody talks about it. Most I was in was the local criminal news. It wasn't anything else. Whereas I was coming off and getting a TV interview. I'm thinking, what's going on here? They like had a translator and everything trying to do the conversations with you. And you're like, oh, all right, okay. And then when you get there, and the hall is massive. There's so many mats. There's so many wrestlers, and I won one match, and then the rest of them I just got thrown about, and I was like, no, these are the wake up calls for me. That was like, all right, okay, I need to sort things out. I started doing a lot more fitness stuff, started going to the gym a lot more and sort myself out. So the next time I went, I did get gold. I did win it the next time I went to Latvia, but they take it, it's massively serious, and like there's a massive culture to it as well, like the mob and all the rest of it. Like there's like definitely gangsters and that when you turn up and they're all shaking your hands because you're a wrestler, so they respect you straight away. Like you can't see it because of the headphones, but like my qualifier here, they were like straight away like, you're a good one.
And what about the camaraderie with them? Like, are they would they sort of pull you afterwards or beforehand and say, right, this is like a technique you can use, and sort of would they good at sharing tips with you?
100%. They would love to share tips. They like, you would constantly get invited. Like they always wanted you to come over, like to be like a foreigner to come and like for them to host for you and things like that. They loved that. They wanted you to come. They wanted you to show things, because for them, if they showed you something, they can later on boast about it, saying, aye, I showed that boy how to do that, and it was brilliant. Plus my coach, being Granite, like my original one, he was quite well known. Like a lot of the Russian coaches all knew my coach, so it was really good. Like so when you spoke to them and they're like, oh, Granite, they'll go on about him, and it was quite a good maybe connection.
It sounds like he was well quoted then within the wrestling world. Yeah. And what about the weight? Were you cutting weight back then, and can you maybe explain like how that works to people who are maybe not as familiar with?
So it's banned now, so anybody under the age of 16 can't cut weight, but yeah, I cut weight when for all my competitions.
So what is weight? Some people might not know what it is.
So beforehand, like we had weigh-ins the day before, and on the morning you could choose which one you wanted back then. You usually try and choose the day before so that you could try and cut water. So you would dehydrate yourself, make sure you sweated it all out, and then be a bit lighter, and then you rehydrate and you're heavier for the day of the competition. And I was doing that back when I was 6.
6? Fucking hell.
I still remember my first British Championships. It was like 97, and it was me and Mike Grundy running around the National Squad Centre. And I think I did 27 kilos, he did 31. Bunch of beans with sweatsuits on, absolutely jogging. Like, because back then we didn't do it right. We were properly exercising with the sweatsuits on to try and burn it off, and burning like so much energy and knacking ourselves. But we were wee kids.
How many kilos? How many kilos were you cutting? And did it give you an advantage?
Nothing. It was like probably about 1 kilo, 2 kilos, but still a lot for a kid. The kid shouldn't be doing that. But aye.
And did you feel like when you went in that you had an edge? Like, did you feel stronger than the other ones you were competing against? Or
I don't know. I didn't really think about it that much. To be honest, it was just a culture thing. Everybody cut weight, so you just assumed that okay, that's the weight you're gonna we'll cut, and we just got on with it. You just did what your coach and everybody around was telling you. I shoved my bin bag on, because we didn't have sweatsuits because they're all that size for kids. So it was a black bag you shoved on, your trousers and the top, and you shoved as many clothes on as you could. But sometimes you're even shoving your teammates' clothes on top of you because you didn't bring that many clothes to try and heat you up and start jogging around.
That's mental, man. So then when you started winning things in Latvia, you progressed over to more senior competitions, and then I think you were in America for a while, was that right?
Eventually when I turned 17, I kind of went over to Canada, this is Vancouver, and got kind of basically wrestled for the university out there. And I did the kind of NCAA league for there, going down into like Seattle, kind of basically Oregon, and down to California.
Oregon, that's Chael Sonnen territory, isn't it? Did you wrestle against anybody sort of that has went on that we would know at a sort of Olympic level or an MMA level that you can mind?
Quite a few actually. told you this earlier on before we started. I'm terrible with names. I'm better with faces. But no, a few Olympians on the team for SFU, for Simon Fraser University. So like, it was constantly training at a high level. You had a lot of the MMA ones were all coming in as well. A few of them were on UFC and things like that. Like, I don't even remember them because I was 17, didn't know much anything about UFC, didn't know who they were. I just thought, right, I'm double legging these guys and they keep falling on their back, which is a bit like easy, I'm winning. Didn't think anything about it. Now that I do jiu-jitsu, I'm thinking, alright, they were pulling guard on me, all of them.
Like, what was the lifestyle like away from college? Like, were you partying all the time? You were all the wee red cups and all that?
Yeah, it was. I think that's half the reason I ended up. So I quit wrestling when I was out there. So I stopped. So I turned 18 out there, and it was only a few months after that. I just was like, no, this is too much for me. Like a junior team and a senior team within it. So the juniors were like the ones that are first years that are just starting. The seniors were like the ones. So I made the kind of like senior team, and I was constantly travelling all the time. I was not doing well with my classes because I was knackered. Like, you were training 3 times a day. The only day it was meant to be class as your rest day was a Sunday, and you trained once. It's weird. So Americans or kind of North Americans do it different from like the Russians. So they do a lot more fitness, and it's all like drilled, like constant. Whereas like in Russia, it's more about getting your technique right, making sure you drill that, making sure you're doing all this stuff. They do still do fitness, but not to the same level as Americans go OTT with it. So like, I had bad knees from wrestling, and I said to my coaches, like, I can't do these type of fitness things you want me to do. They wouldn't adapt. It was like, no, you need to go run the 10 miles in the morning, you need to go do this. And my knees were gulped, I couldn't do it. So it was one of the ones that just put me off, and my coach just wasn't listening to me. I didn't have that same kind of connection that I had with my coaches back in the UK, and I was just, it put me right off. The party life was too good, hanging about with everybody that was there. So I stayed in basically a student accommodation. There was 8 floors of my thing filled with people that I knew, and it was just, it was good fun.
Is there any parties you can tell us about? Your wife's going to be watching this, so you need to be careful what you're saying here.
A wee bit. But no, my wife actually knows most of the stories. I'm pretty honest with her and told them most, so it's good.
Because I've only seen the videos online, but it seems like the jocks, as they call them over there, they get a bit special attention.
They do, aye. So there was a few times that I got like extensions on for my exams, and you're able to do a lot more privileges and things like that. Aye.
When you came back for Canada, then what did you do after that? Because you'd obviously been wrestling for year 4, and that takes you up to age, 2021?
I was 18 when I came back. I just went to uni. I decided, I went around Europe with one of my pals that was on the wrestling team from Canada. So he came across Russell, and we went around kind of Europe together, hanging around, and then that summer I met my wife, and I started here at Cali. And
did you meet her like travelling like through Europe?
No. So she's from Cumbernauld as well. So she was working with my best pal in Tesco, and so we kind of went for a wee day at Callendar Park, and that was it. You're
desperate for that 20% discount or whatever it was it?
Aye. It was 20%, and then you get a wee bit extra with your club card points and all that.
Aye, sounds like you get a wee bit extra anyway, Finn. So, what did you do when you came here? What did you do when your first stint here?
My first stint, because I told you I've been here 3 times. So my first stint was biological science. Initially, I had to do a summer school placement thing, so I had to do my chemistry. So I came here initially, did a chemistry to allow me to go on the course, and then when I was here, I didn't really come here that often. I dogged it a lot, and my wife was meant to be at college studying as well, and she was dogging it because we were constantly. I don't know if you know, but that summer was brilliant. Like, it was just so warm. It was like we just travelled everywhere, and then my 16-year-old son came along. So I dropped it.
And what, did you go and work at that point, or you weren't wrestling?
So I then decided to get a job, and I worked in a warehouse and things, and it was a good few years later that I then came back here, because Galley was the place that did the Scottish Ambulance Service kind of training stuff. So I came in as a ambulance tech and did my course here, and then I did later on my third stint, was my paramedic.
So what triggered that? Like, what made you want to get into that, mate? If you can talk about that.
So healthcare was more, to be honest, my family. My sister's a GP, and both my parents were A&E nurses at one point. So my mum was a psych nurse and an A&E nurse, and then a school nurse, and then she's now a health visitor. And my dad initially worked in A&E, worked in cardiology, started doing medical sales and things like that.
How long do you need to time for that? And would you, if there's people out there who obviously want to become a paramedic, like, is it something
It's all different now. So you now have to do it as a degree to become a paramedic. So the GCU does a degree program, and so does UWS and Queen Margaret in Edinburgh, whatever, I can't remember the name of the uni, but
QMU, I think it is. Yeah.
But the ones that I mostly deal with is UWS because I work in Lanarkshire and I see a lot of the GCU ones as well. So Muzza, shout out to Muzza. Muzza that's at our gym is on the GCU course. He's third year, he's just about to finish.
I think I seen him actually a couple of weeks ago when I was leaving here. I've sort of recognised him. Oh, he's for the gym, right?
So he's about to become a paramedic, so there'll be 2 in the gym.
Nice. And are you training them? Is that what you're saying, or you're just aware?
So they have placements and they have to come out with us. So like basically you have to like they get different wee stints with us. So like if you're a first year, you get 2 weeks, and then you get another like 4 weeks out with us, and then when you do it in second year, you get another couple of weeks and a couple of weeks. And basically we have to show them, allow them to do their skills that they're meant to have learned and assess them and things.
Aye, no, nice. And did you get back into wrestling, or all this Team Scotland stuff and the Team GB stuff was prior to the becoming a paramedic?
No. So when I started back as starting in here to become a technician, that's when I was coming into Glasgow quite a lot, and my son, my oldest Lucas, was looking at all my trophies in the house and was like, Dad, I want to be a wrestler. And he was just at the right age. I think he was like 4 or 5, and I was like, you know what, let's take you along. Like, I'm not going to stop you. I loved it as a kid. So he started doing it, and seeing sitting at the edge of the mat and watching them, oh God, it makes you think, you realise that I actually love this sport. Why am I away from this? It was all just because of a stupid coach out there that I didn't have the bond with, made it hard and all the rest of it. And so I then got back into it. I then started going to the Scottish Squad sessions because they were training for the Commonwealth Games for Glasgow. So I started training with them and realising, look, I'm getting a couple of guys here that actually want this. I might actually need to get my arse in gear and start training again. And then at that point, David McDonald from Hit Squad was the old wrestling coach. Started coming to the Dresden and saying to us, oh, there's hundreds of bodies at Hit Squad, you need to come along, get some extra training in there. And that's...
Is that how you get into Jiu-Jitsu then? Was that the sort of the end?
I was my into the Hit Squad. I think it took me about a year or maybe 2 years before I started Jiu-Jitsu. I was downright like, no, I'm not doing that. It's just cuddling. I'm not doing that. What's that about? No, I was totally adamant. I'm not doing that. Like, it's totally anti-wrestling. Like, it's lying on your back. It wasn't right. I was like, no. That's like, for me, if you lie on your back, you're defeated. Whereas you now realise that, no, it's not. But at the time, I was totally like wrestling goggles on. I'm like, nah, that's just daft. Like, they're scooting about in their arse for.
So when you started, when you took your first class then, effectively, or your first sparring session, did you feel like there was a target on your back, or did you feel that you had to prove, all right, wrestling is the superior grappling sport here? Was there any of that?
Aye, so like when I started doing the wrestling classes, and there was a bit at the end, we always did the live rounds. See the amount of people that would constantly want to guillotine me, and I was like, no, I'm not having this. I was like, no, I need to learn how to defend and what the rule set is and try and work. So no, there was definitely a target because everybody wants to beat the coach. If you know you're one of the coaches, they want to get that win over you, because especially during the live stand-up rounds, I'm throwing everybody about like a ragdoll. I'm playing around with them and things like that. So they're wanting to do the same with me when it comes to Jiu-Jitsu.
And is that including some, because some people might know Scottish Hit Squad's obviously like an MMA gym, and it's got a sort of mix of professional and amateurs, and famously obviously sort of Paul Craig sort of came from there. So was it people like Paul and Chris and that you're talking about here?
Yeah, Paul, Chris, then you had like Nathan, Jess Martin, and like Jordan Strong and Michael Blair and all the rest of the ones. They're all coming up. We're all the ones doing things like that, and I'm like, oh, I can't be having this, I need to show them.
And then, so can you tell us about when you actually started rolling then? Because people who might not know how that would go effectively.
So I basically, when I tried to roll, so there used to be morning classes, like on a Tuesday, Wednesday and a Thursday. They were setting the schedule, and it was Jimmy that always opened up, and it was them that I started going to. So I was like, they're a wee bit quieter, I can do them, I'll just jump into them. Which was a bad idea because Jimmy just beat me up.
This is Jimmy Gallagher we're talking about, Brian's brother.
Aye. He's the one that properly got me into it, I would definitely say.
And there wasn't any nerves or ego, I suppose, at that initial stage, because I'm presuming they were fucking up when you started doing the jiu-jitsu, because it's a different sport, it's a different skill set.
I think it actually maybe in Paul that said this, he's like, oh, don't worry about it. You're going in as a white belt. White belt's a survival belt. You're meant to go in and get humbled and just learn the rules and survive, which I did. So, but you had ones like Darren Blakely and a few other ones that were in the gym all going, you're a wee sandbagger, you should be a blue belt because I've wrestled and all this nonsense. You're like, I'm doing a sport that disadvantages me. Like, the amount of times like I was driving my head into the side of the body and getting myself guillotined, like, realising that I've built up a muscle memory that's actually a disadvantage. You're coming in fresh and learning a sport fresh. I'm trying to adapt my sport. Like, it's a bit different.
And that's a thing now, though, isn't it? Like, if you're a judo black belt, I think you have to compete at blue belt day and above.
Yeah.
So, like, for the competitions, they're obviously kind of cognizant of the similarities.
Judo's a wee bit different. Judo has submissions in it and it has the throws. So when it comes to the gi, that I can understand that. I can understand, like, for gi, for judo, 100% you need to be a blue. But for no gi, no, I think you should go in as white because it's different. Like, no gi, what they're used to, their grips and their advantages, they've not got that. So it's like it's them trying to learn and adapt as well, adapt their sport. So they should be allowed that thing to adapt. And it's the same for a wrestler. If they go and do gi, they should be white. And if a wrestler does no gi, then maybe say, he should be blue.
I completely disagree, by the way. Because if somebody like John McCormick gets you in scarf control as a white belt, then you're absolutely fucked, aren't you? So,
but it's true, but that's the thing, like, he needs to get you in that scarf control. Like, it took probably John a wee while to get himself used to that. Like, he's been trained at that gym for a long time to eventually do that. He's brilliant at it. But
I thought that was like a judo move.
It is a judo move, but you know what I mean? But he's done that with a gi. He's had to learn to adapt, to grab the arm, the head. It's probably not taken him that long, but he still needs to adapt.
Can you talk about that a wee bit? Like, how you're obviously a paramedic, it's a stressful job, you're obviously get exposed to like a lot of trauma, and then like how jiu-jitsu's like helped you with that effectively?
It's one of the moments you see all the rules. It's like the minute they step on the mat, it goes silent. You don't have the thoughts, so it's that you can get any kind of frustrations out. Like, exercise in itself is good for your mental health. So that's, for me, it's brilliant, and it's like an escape. It gets you away from it, and it makes a big difference. Like, it's especially for me. Like, you've been there. I've done a night shift. I come in. I've had an absolute shit night shift, and I'm pissed off for all the rest of it. And I come in, have a giggle with yous, roll around, and all the rest of it. I can go home to my house with my family and actually be in a better mood instead of going the way I was and end up causing arguments or doing something stupid and all the rest of it. So it's good. I like it. It makes a big difference to me.
So it's like a sort of pressure cooker. It sounds like it gives you that release.
Yeah.
And what about like in between rounds? Like, because I'll like, this is something that I've struggled with in the past. Like, see if you're absolutely fucked, you're exhausted, and you've maybe just been absolutely done in for 3-4 rounds. You never, in those moments, you never sit and think, fuck. Like, I know what you mean about the quiet moments when you're sort of, when you're training, you're rolling, but then in between, do you never have any sort of busyness then?
No, I don't know. My head's different. Like, I'm sometimes playing songs and that. It's just,
you think of the suplexing guns?
Or just like, it's more just like, all right, who am I going on with next? Like, you've only got a minute, so it's not that long. You're too busy thinking about, okay, who's on next? What order have we done them in? Because if there's like 16 in the place, you go in a wee order, you swap about, so you always go on to the next person. You're like, all right, okay, who's our one way next? Or I'm going on with him, I'm going on with Paul now. Right, let's go for it. Well, what did Paul get on me the last time? I'll think about that. So I'm too busy concentrating on the actual jiu-jitsu to forget about the outside world. What's going on?
Aye, fair enough. And what about like, can we talk about any like steroids and stuff like that? Like, obviously you're sort of getting into competitive side of jiu-jitsu and wrestling now, so what's your...
So I've came from wrestling when I've had like a lot of anti-doping, so I've been tested quite a lot when I was part of Team GB and Team Scotland. So for me, I've avoided it. I've been one of the ones that I don't even take creatine. I don't take any of the protein. I've never done any of that stuff. But if honest, it's more out of laziness. Like, because so if you take any of the shakes, you then need to send a batch sample away and get it tested to make sure it's okay for them to approve it for you then to take it. It's just a lot. I just can't be bothered with it. I always stayed away from it. I've always just went for the natural foods, went for my steaks, my chickens, all the rest of it, and just got my proteins and all my other things from that. I'm not the ripped physique, so I'm not telling that's everybody's the way they should do it. It's just more the way I done it. I seen a lot of it. See, especially when I went to Bulgaria, was the first time I really properly seen. We were at a training camp, and they were getting vitamin shots of the doctors and all that, and that's as kids, and they were getting their vitamins and all these pills sitting at the front. I'm now older, and I now clicked and went, oh, that's even other things. They're not giving kids vitamin shots.
Eckies, was it?
No, like the proper actual injections.
Like steroids, basically?
Essentially steroids and all the rest of that.
And how old are we talking?
I was about 14, 15.
Jesus Christ, man.
Just at puberty, so the start age, like you're going through your puberty, that's when they were getting all that stuff.
And so they're walking about like Brock Lesnar?
Aye.
Was it noticeable? Like, because I think, I can only talk for Jiu-Jitsu, but when you go up against it and you're going, fuck me, this guy's got a different level of strength here, which seems...
Yeah, there is definitely, it was noticeable, but the difference for wrestling at that age, you don't want to be stacked. You want to be able to be loose and fluid to move. So you'll see it, like you felt it when you wrestled me or you stood up. I'm nice and relaxed. I'm not all tense muscles. You had a lot of ones that did it to the extreme in these countries, and they were absolutely solid, and they end up just getting beat because they were just too slow.
It sounds like what you were talking about earlier as well, when like you were saying the Russians focus more on the sort of technique and getting that done, rather than it sounds like the sort of Americans and Canadians are more focused maybe on hitting the gym and putting on muscle mass. So like, I know that you're part of like the coaching sort of squad there, and you were involved with Trist in terms of coaching as well. So is that what you try and focus on with the sort of new generation?
Yeah, so I prefer if you did like a lot more technique. If your technique's sound, then you'll be good. Like, strength and condition is a big part of it, and it should be. I'm now getting into it myself a lot more. But if your technique's sound, then you know that you're... don't know how to actually phrase this the best way, but you know that you've got a higher chance of winning, because if you know that you can hit it 9 times out of 10, you will hit it. Like, you're knowing if you could run 50 metres or 100 metres is not going to make a difference. Like, it's knowing that you can do the technique will get you there.
Aye. And what about when you transitioned into the... Because I think you only had your first BJJ competition a couple of years ago. Is that right? That
1 year ago.
1 year, aye.
1 year ago, aye. That was my first Jiu-Jitsu one, aye.
Tell us about that then. What was that like?
It was a bit nerve-wracking. So it was one of the ones because everybody, because you're the coach, all the rest of it, you couldn't just go and do it like a small, like an average competition. Everybody would say you're a sandbagger and all these other things, because people were moaning that was a blue belt at that point. I'm like, I can't win. I'm like, so...
Sandbagging, for folk who don't know, is like a cunt who's much better and then go and compete against cunts or shite to win, basically.
Hey, aye.
So that's what you used to do to me at the 7 o'clock classes, to be fair.
That's true. But no, so this was an open belt competition. It was under 80 kilos, anything goes. So I went against black belts, brown belts, purple belts, and I ended up losing in the finals to Sean Stewart, and I nearly had a number on him. Oh, so close.
I've seen the videos, but you won most of your matches, all your other matches you smashing, right?
Yeah. So I had another 5 matches and I won them.
And like, what was that like? What's that done for your confidence or your nerves?
At the time, I kind of put in my head, oh, this is the kind of level I'm at. That's it allowed me to then move on and do other comps and things.
So is like obviously we're going to talk about the snake pit stuff as well, but did that win give you confidence going into the sort of catch wrestling, or that was always a plan anyway?
So I've had ups and downs. So I've had wins, losses. I've went like that, and it's been a bit of a nightmare. But I know the catch wrestling was a bit different one. That's because it was more my niche. I was like, right, okay, it's wrestling, and it's got the submissions that I've been learning. That's perfect. That's up my street. Whereas like I've been doing different jiu-jitsu ones, and there was different rule sets. Like I've done ADCC, and like in my head I'm like, oh, I can't go straight away for a takedown because nothing counts in the first 5 minutes. And like I played stupid mind games in my head, and I had other things going on as well. And well,
the snake pit stuff, like, can you talk to us a bit about that? Is that Josh Barnett's organisation, or he did catch wrestling and he's trying to like promote it and make it like a thing?
Josh Barnett's one of the big kind of names for catch wrestling in America. So it's Roy Woods and, as I was saying earlier on, Aspo Wrestling Club. They then have their own snake pit club down in Wigan, and they're the ones that kind of run it for the UK. So it was them. So they've been running competitions since I've been little, doing freestyle ones. I always knew he did do catch wrestling. Roy was really famous for it. He went to Japan, went like all around the world doing catch wrestling and doing seminars, and it was a big name in it. So it's his competition is his door. Andrea now runs it with a few hours that are part of the organisation. And I've always wanted to do it. I've had guys that I wrestled with through the years. I've went on, won it, or I've competed on it, and they're always posted it on social media. And I always went, I kind of want to do that. Especially the belt. The belt looks cool. It's anything. I absolutely loved it. I was like, I want to win that. So I then seen the opportunity, and me and Taylor McCann went down and competed at it, and obviously I won it. So I was buzzing. Didn't get to take home the belt. Andrea, I'm still raging away. So I got to take photos with it. They say I need to win it 3 times in a row at the same weight, and then I can take it home. And at that point, on that show, that's when they had Josh Barnett over against Owen Lively's, whatever I say his name, but I did win against him. And it was quite a good show. It was well run.
So obviously, I think you won all your matches by sub or whatever, a pin or whatever.
Pin, so I won them all with a pin. So I basically used freestyle wrestling to win them all.
And they've then sort of signed you or whatever, or they've invited you over.
So they've invited me over. So after I won it, Andrea said to us that Josh was wanting them to come over and would it be interesting. I said in the night, I was like, yeah, it would be, just let me know. And then she then sent us a message that invited me across saying that, okay, we're going to go across in May. Josh is going to hold a training camp for the week, and then he'll have his competition at the end. So that's the plan. Hopefully I can get across and do that.
So the training camp, is that like Josh Barnett's going to be sort of teaching you?
Josh Barnett's going to show us some moves, run the training camp, do like basically like a week-long seminar with Josh Barnett.
Wow, does that?
That's exciting. Aye, that's brilliant. Because I didn't really know who he was, because he's big for like MMA world and all the rest of it. I didn't know who he was till I started in that squad, and it was especially Brian, because a lot of the moves I was doing, he was like, "Oh, Josh Barnett does that. He does it this way," and like I kept hearing this name all the time, so I eventually had to look him up, and so it was awesome eventually getting to meet him and things.
And was he chatting away to you the last?
So it was his fighter I beat in the final. So he was in the corner. I got to shake his hand and have a wee chat, and he was telling me well done on that, and then went to celebrate with Brian and Veronica and things.
Well, as you do, I think that's part of it, isn't it? So, and you're trying to you're raising a bit of sponsorship to try and go over there, is that right?
Aye. So as I was saying earlier on, I used to get funding and things like that. So I'm not used to I'm not used to asking or like putting myself out there. But they're going to pay essentially for the training camp and the competition fees and things. But I still need to get the flight over, accommodation, travelling around, food, all the rest of it. So it's very expensive. I've got 2 kids and all the rest of it. So it's an opportunity I don't want to miss. And I'm chatting to a few in the gym, and they're all saying, well, if you just try a wee GoFundMe, see how it goes, and see if people will put forward, because it's good for the gym, it's good for everybody to say, oh, that's my coach doing that, it's good for everybody. So I was like, all right, okay. And then they say, well, how much you're trying to raise, it's not a big deal if everybody gives you a wee snippet, then you could get there. So at the moment it's looking good. I've had some good, like, what I'm liking about the Jiu Jitsu world, see the ones that are like within Scotland, they're all actually really good. So I'm doing a seminar this weekend at Baseline. So probably, I don't know, by the time this comes out, I might have already done it. So I'm doing Baseline. It's just at, oh my God, I want to say it's Troon, but it's not.
Irvine, is it?
Irvine, thank you. Aye, so thank God you said that, I'll get lost. But so I'm doing that there, and it's that Sean Stewart that I've lost to in the finals, and you've got Robert Peter. I'm sorry if I got your surname wrong. The other ones that kind of run that gym, so it's like good connections. These guys I've met at comps that have said, right, okay, come through and teach. And I've kind of got to know them a lot better. See, when I was coaching at Ayrshire Hit Squad at Neil's place, I got to know them. That's the way it should be. You just all connect them with the gyms and just get the train whenever you can.
Aye, no, absolutely. Since you won, obviously, that comp, and obviously you done well in the sort of the open weight category, all belts, whatever, the absolute division, I suppose they call it in the Jiu Jitsu world, has that opened up more opportunities? Like, are other gyms inviting you, like, for further afield, in for seminars? Is that what you want to do, ideally?
There's a few that have invited me, but I'm not wanting to say their names because they're not posted it yet, so they're waiting till this one finishes, and I think they'll then post it. But I'll let them announce it. But I've got a few other wee seminars, but I'm not the best at like putting myself at social media. I don't like, this is my first podcast, so like I say, I've been invited on several, so I know people will be annoyed when they find out I've done this one as well.
Well, thanks for that.
I was like, Paul, they just invited me, so I'm happy to do it.
I know, that's brilliant, mate. So obviously we spoke a wee bit about the coaching. There's obviously some big names that were at the squad. Obviously we've got Paul and Chris. So you maybe talk to us about how you have been involved with some of their training camps, maybe some of the memorable moments for that, or even maybe when they're in their sort of fights, and if you've been helping Bratty with the tactics and all that, like what that's like to watch as a friend and a fan.
So I've had with both of them. I watched fight videos, and we've discussed techniques, and I've done different drills against the wall. For me, like, I'm not MMA. I've not done it, so the advice I can give them is only limited to actual grappling exchanges, right? And especially when Paul and Bungie are both a higher level jiu-jitsu compared to me, so it's trying to work on their stand-up grapples and try and work on different wee exchanges. So no, it's been good. And I had a good free stint at one point that I was doing a lot of fitness stuff with Paul, and Bungie was coming along as well, and we had a Igor that's now going to be fighting on Cage Warriors. He was coming along when he first was coming to Scotland, and we were doing a lot of stuff just to try and, because Paul had a program at that point from UFC PI, and they were giving him stuff, and we were just working on it together. Like just try to beat each other's PBs and things like that, or reps? It was trying to work together. I definitely couldn't beat any stuff. Come on, he's like double my height and not a chance. But no, I've enjoyed it because a lot of the stuff was agility stuff. It was jumping, moving, all the rest of the things that were, I was realising like it's wee bits I could maybe do a wee bit better than him, but the other parts that he was just outshining me, big long limbs and all the rest of it.
And you mentioned obviously Cage Warriors there, so there's a few of the boys at the gym fighting. What's the sort of atmosphere like in the gym now, and how do you think they're going to get on, and are you sort of helping with the wrestling side of things that you
so we've got a few wrestling ones lined up with Brian, so Brian's got a few sessions that he knows that is going to benefit me, so essentially I'm starting my training camp as well for going off to America, so it works out perfectly. So theirs is in April, mine's is in May. So I'm basically going to start up getting some good wrestling rounds with them, helps them with their grappling and things like that. But no, the atmosphere is brilliant, absolutely fantastic. See, like there's 4 of them and they're always in together. The camaraderie between them, you can see it. They're ready. They're determined. It's brilliant. It's good to see.
So it's going to be 4 wins for the hit squad, is it?
It'll better be. Aye, I'll be disappointed if not. It's no. But no, I don't see why not. They're all training hard, they're all looking fantastic, and they're all determined to do it. So.
And what about, like, when you're watching MMA, is it wrestlers sort of club, if it's Hamza against, like, Adesanya and that, is you always rooting for the wrestlers and shouting for a double leg?
Aye, all the time.
And who's your favourite, like, MMA fighters? Like, and as well, actually, before I get into that, see, you were talking about obviously watching video, breaking it down and helping. Is that something that you would like to do in the future? Like, if there's other wrestlers like down south or whatever, if they're sort of looking maybe for analysis and stuff like that, would you like?
I'd always happily do that, yeah. Because I do, like, so I've done it with a good few of the ones, because I've done PTs with some of the amateur ones as well, and I've watched their fighters who they're going to go against, and we try and work on different grappling exchanges. I can't tell them when it comes to the striking, that's something I'll eventually pick up and do, but it's the grappling exchanges when they're against the cage, when they're moving, and I can assess and say, right, okay, that's a good position for you, we can work on that. Especially, I can't remember who it was for, but there was a guy who kept wanting to do kind of an overhook and trying to go for like a judo sweep and things like that all the time. I'm like, no, this is perfect for you. He's giving you the high position, we can work on it, and he did. And he kept taking him down every single time. There was a few times, like there's a few of Paul's fights that we worked on, wee odds and ends that Paul managed to work on. So we had like the far guillotine that he did. I can't remember the boy, it was in Mexico, and he ended up kneeing him in the face, and I thought he was going to get the knockout at that point, and then he ended up subbing him.
I can't mind, to be honest.
Oh, that's going to annoy me.
My memory's not good with things like that, mate. And then what about away from that? Obviously, you spoke about being the sort of Michael Phelps come and all that there for a while. You're right into your cold water dipping as well, aren't you? That's your kind of...
That's a good way to put that, from Phelps to cold water. I like how you did that there. I do. So I started all that mostly when I went to Latvia, because we did the saunas and things like that, and then we used to jump in the ice ponds. So that's been the first time I really done it. And then when I eventually went to Canada, it was part of the regime after training, was to go and you do the cold bath, then you go and do the hot jacuzzi, cold, and you jump back and forth, back and forth. And I hadn't done it for years, and then it was Big Wilby said to us that, we're going up the Campsies, you want to go for a dip?
You seem to find like some of the good ones. Like, is there any ones you can sort of recommend to people who are looking to get into that? Like, obviously, some of the waterfalls that you've been at, like, tremendous.
So there's, I basically just hunt online, see like on like social media, people post them, and I just go and search them out. And probably the one that I like is the Campsies, and it's the church. It's the one that's just at Clachan Campsies. It's the best one. It's a nice pool. It's a nice wee area. It's usually kept clean. It's further away from the car park in the sky that's usually filled with bits of rubbish and all the rest of it, because it's the most popular one that most people go to.
I've still not been up to the Campsies yet, to be honest. I keep saying I'm going to go up and just never bothered finding it yet. So hopefully maybe once the weather gets a bit better. See, because you're a paramedic, right, and obviously it can be dangerous staying that. Are you more cognizant of that, do you think, and more cautious than the standard person, or you just don't give a fuck when you get there?
That should be it. When you see us, yeah, I'm totally cautious. I'm a paramedic. I should be looking after it. But no, I'm one of the terrible ones. I just jump in.
And you're no like timing that then, like that. You're just whatever you go for.
So initially when I first did it with Wilby, I was timing it and seeing how long, because we were doing it quite serious, because it was different from doing it in an actual ice bath and actually going outside and doing the cold dips. But now, no, I'm not timing it. I'm just jumping in, taking photos, and I can't sit still. So I'm not the type that goes in and I sit still like that. I could do it for like a minute and then I get bored and I'm looking around. So that's why you'll see videos of me jumping in the water, swimming about, lying on my back, all the rest. I just can't sit still. As you can see from this interview, that I'm constantly moving. My hands are footed and all the rest of it.
Oh no, it's fine, mate. I think we'll wrap up soon anyway. So just for your fundraiser, is it anywhere like people can get involved with that? Because it'd be good for Scotland, I think. Like if you go over there and do well, like hopefully it can help sort of catch wrestling become a thing.
So I'm the only Scottish athlete that's going to it. So all the rest of the ones that are going from Team GB are from England, and there's like boys from Ireland, and that's it at the moment. So if they can just go on my Instagram or Finn, or and you'll see the link from my GoFundMe page. Finn's
Instagram, and then the links there. Right, no worries, mate. We'll call it there then. I appreciate that, bro. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good man.